everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name is Jen. In today's video, I thought it would be fun to share some of my favorite podcasts. So I know that for a lot of people, listening to podcasts is like a great way to sort of, I guess, multitask in a way, because you could be, either listening to audiobooks, I know that's another one too, podcasts, audiobooks, that sort of a thing. Kind of makes you feel like you're able to do more than one thing at the same time. And sometimes, especially if you're doing like mundane tasks and stuff around the house or whatever, it's a great way to sort of like pass the time, you know, get through what you need to get through. I know for me actually, and this may kind of seem kind of odd, but I actually really like listening to podcasts when I'm working out. I don't know if that's weird, or like audiobooks, like I said. Sometimes I'm in the mood for just some music to just really get me going, but sometimes when it's music, I will zone out in the sense of like, you know, I know the music and it's just kind of there in the background. I'm thinking too much about like how hard this workout is, or like when it's going to be over. When I have to like listen to something where I have to pay attention, I find that, I don't know, like I can get through a workout better. I don't know if that makes any sense, but my mind is just like thinking about what I'm listening to, and I'm like less focused on, you know, this really sucks right now. Like this is really hard. What I'm doing right now is really hard. I would say the majority of the time that is when I'm listening to podcasts. When I'm in the car, not so much. Weirdly enough, that's when I like to blast my music. But anyway, I thought it might be kind of interesting to know what I like to listen to, in case maybe you might want some suggestions for different things. I have a variety. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think I have 8. It's quite the variety. I have, well, a little bit of everything. So I'm gonna start with sort of my Bible Christian type podcasts that I enjoy listening to. The first one that's going to be at the top of my list is Grace to You Radio Podcast with John MacArthur. So if you don't know who John MacArthur is, he is a pretty popular, I would say over the last probably 5 years, became more popular in the sense of just general, like knowing who he was as a public figure, pastor. I think his church is based out of California, if I'm not mistaken, or is it Florida? He's just a fantastic preacher all around. If you're looking for biblically sound Bible teaching, like the Word of God, no frills, like there's just something about his preaching. He really, right around when the world shut down, I kind of came to like this point in my journey as a Christian where I realized like a lot of my upbringing and a lot of what I had been raised and taught was just not very biblically based. I'll just leave it at that. And he was one of the people that I kind of came across that really just transformed how I looked at a lot of what I had been taught, a lot of what I had believed, and just because of the fact that like everything that he talks about and preaches is just completely 100% based out of the Bible. What does God's word say? And also applying it in a proper way, how it's meant to be, like in context to what the passage is saying. And it might seem very like, yeah, isn't that what you're supposed to do? Well, you'd be surprised. And so realizing that that is a lot of not what I had in my Christian upbringing. I would say he was one of the preachers that just really started me and my husband on this journey of just an eye-opening, really us taking a look at what we believed, what we, you know, again, unlearning certain things that we had learned and just seeing things in a brand new way, in a more real, again, biblically sound way. I keep saying that, but it's just so important. And realizing that a lot of the people that we had been listening to and following were just not that. And so if I just couldn't recommend him enough, you can find a lot of these people on YouTube as well. So, that's an easy way to find him if you just type in John MacArthur. It's Grace Community Church, I believe is the name of his church. But yeah, you could find his podcasts on, I find all these on Apple. It's basically just sermons. He talks about all kinds of things, all kinds of topics. And it's just really fantastic. So I would say that's my number one, probably my most listened to podcasts. Close behind him, I would say maybe for the last 2-ish years, is Bible Thinker with Mike Winger. And Mike Winger, you can also find him on YouTube. He's a pastor as well. He does this thing called 20 Questions with Pastor Mike. That's basically the basis of like what the episodes are. And he does it on YouTube, and I think it's live. I think when he does the episodes on YouTube, like I think when you watch it, I'm pretty sure it's live. What he does is he takes the first 20 questions that people send in, and he spends the next however long just answering those questions. And it can be about anything to do with the Bible, God, anything at all, Christianity. Like, he gets questions from all kinds of people, not just Christians. Like, he gets questions from people who are not Christians. He's not afraid to answer them the best that he can. Like, he doesn't shy away from certain topics or anything like that. Yeah, he just covers, like, you'll just hear a variety of things, a variety of topics. That's why I love it so much. It's so interesting. I've learned so much from him. And again, he's just very much like, you know, he will reference Bible verses. He will reference like where he's getting information from. You can even, you know, you could look them up yourself. And there's a lot of times that he kind of just like answers things and says like, well, there's maybe not like a definite answer on this from what we know or what we can see or what we can read. I'm leaning towards saying that this would be why or whatever, you know. A lot of times he'll just say like, I need to do more research on that or whatever, but I just love, he's very honest, and he's very just like, his approach is very easily digestible, if that makes sense. So the way that he answers the questions, I feel like anybody could listen to this podcast and like, you get so much from it, and he's got so much valuable information. At the same time, it's like easy to like, you don't, again, if you're somebody who is like not a Christian, but maybe you're interested in learning some stuff, or you're like a new Christian, he delivers his answers in a very easy to consume way. But every time I listen to it, like, I'm always like talking to my husband, I never thought of it that way, or like, he explained this and I was just, oh yeah, like I never, you know, I never really thought. I love when you can listen to something and you kind of come away with it with some, just a little more knowledge than you did before you started listening. So again, you could find him on YouTube if you like want to watch it, but if you want to listen to it, his podcasts are fantastic. The last like Christian podcast I have is Alistair Begg, and he's just got a good old Scottish accent. He's a pastor of a church in the US, I believe, but he's originally from Scotland, and he's just got, that's not why I listen to him, but I'm just saying you can't miss his very heavy Scottish accent, enough that you can still understand him. And he's just another fantastic preacher. Honestly, I don't remember how I first came across him. You know, I'm sure it was like a recommendation based on some of the other people that I watch and listen to. And I know also the church we go to, they have on different occasions, they have referred to clips of his, of some of his sermons and stuff. He's just another great, he's so engaging, and listening to him, it's just so relevant and so understandable. Again, it's just like these preachers that they are preaching the truth of the gospel in a way that does not take away from what the word of God is trying to say, but just making it so easy to grasp. And walking away, you learn something, you take something from it. I love is, and in our church, you know, the church we go to does this as well. And me and my husband were just talking about this, but being able to take 2 verses of a chapter in the Bible and just being able to like talk on those 2 verses for an hour. You know, most of us, we would just kind of like I'll speak for myself. Like, I know sometimes I'll sit down and read the Bible, and I'm trying to really, that's kind of like a thing I've been trying to do different lately, is really just trying to dig in deeper and not just pass over like verses that I think are, I don't know, just don't, maybe that's not the most important part of the story or the overall chapter, but instead like really trying to dissect and break up like every part of what I'm reading. And so when I listen to people who can do that and just I don't know, they bring it to life to get so much out of a simple verse or two. I love that. There's an intention to everything that's in the Bible. There's nothing that is written in the Bible that is not there for a reason, that is not there for us for some reason, that's why it was included, that's why it was there. And so I love listening to preachers who take a simple verse that seems like something like we would just, like I said, especially, you know, sometimes there's like genealogy lists and stuff and we're just kind of like, okay. And then you listen to somebody talk about the significance of why that's there and how it connects to the whole story of Christ and redemption and salvation. And I'm kind of like going on a tangent, but yeah. And so these are all people that do that and do it so well. So Alistair Begg, another great guy. If you're looking for, again, some sound biblical teaching, I couldn't recommend him more. Moving on now to more news. I don't know if it's pop culture necessarily, politics. I do love me some Ben Shapiro, I gotta say. So I don't listen to him all the time regularly, but he is one that I do love listening to. So he's got a conservative take on things. Let's put it this way, guys. Like, I basically stopped watching the news 5 years ago. I just don't even bother. I've picked some reputable sources who I like to listen to. When I'm in the mood for that kind of thing, I kind of want to know what's going on in the world and just kind of listen to their take on things. And that's kind of how I do it nowadays, because there's just so much garbage, and trying to weed through the truth is a full-time job in itself. So I don't necessarily agree with everything he says. It's not about that, but I do like listening to him. I do like listening to his take on things. Yeah, and I'll just leave it there. I'm sure a lot of you know who Ben Shapiro is, but it's a very entertaining podcast. So he's another great one. One that I started listening to pretty recently, I would say the end of last year probably, is when I kind of found out. And again, I don't know, I actually think I saw a clip of him on Joe Rogan's podcast, who I don't listen to him, but you know, like you'll find like clips, Instagram reels or whatever. Eventually, like, I did my own research and kind of, you know, found out more about what he was all about. But it's the Huberman Labs podcast with Andrew Huberman. He's like a professor of medicine. He studies science and biology and nature and just how all those things work together. He's kind of, he's a big proponent for, you know, like getting that first bit of sunlight. I'm not saying he came up with this, but he's a big proponent for, if you're able to, getting that first bit of sunlight in the morning when the sun first rises, and it really helps to set your circadian rhythm, give you a better sleep, just kind of overall give you a more productive day, give you more energy. What's another thing I just read that he talked about how like being outside and getting sunlight, you'd be surprised how important sunlight is actually like physically good for your eyes and preventing, did he say nearsightedness? I think it was, because when we're outside, especially for kids, we actually do more looking far away than we do when we're in our home. And I never thought about it. It seems like such a simple thing. And maybe it's just me that I was like blown away by this fact, but I was like, I never even thought about that. But think about it, when you're in your home, you have less opportunities to have to look far. And on top of it, it's like screens everywhere. So when you're outside, you do that more, and it actually, they've done studies that it helps prevent different eye issues because of the fact that you are exposing your eyes to the sunlight and exercising the whole like looking far away more than you would when you're in your home. I don't know, things like that just fascinate me. I think that that's just so interesting how nature and science and health can all kind of work together. So I just find his podcasts are so like, they're just so full of like information like that. Now I will say I listen to them sparingly because they're so information heavy. You really have to pay attention if you want to like get anything out of it. So I have to kind of be in the mood. Sometimes if I go for like a walk or something, I will listen to it because I can kind of really just focus and pay attention. But if you're into that kind of stuff, I highly recommend that podcast because it's, like I said, it's like chock full of all the health information. And then the last three that I have are pretty just sheer entertainment alone. The first one is Lit Chicks Read by or with Lauren McBride and Cheryl Barber. If you can't tell, it is a book podcast. And I found out about this, I mean, there's tons of book podcasts, but I'm a big reader. Like I kind of rediscovered my love of reading right around quarantine, and I've just been on this reading kick ever since. So I love following like people who do reading channels on YouTube or anything like that. And I actually found this specific podcast. It's fairly new actually, because the one girl, Lauren McBride, she's a pretty big like Instagram influencer. She actually, like same thing, she kind of rediscovered her love for reading. And so she kind of started incorporating that into her content, and I've followed her forever. And so she started this podcast, and because I kind of already knew who she was, I started listening to it. And it's just, like I said, it's just fun. If you love to read, and if you're kind of into like a lot of the, I would say like, I guess popular books, like kind of the new and hot, you know, whatever is like in the moment kind of books, they cover most of those on there. So if you just like listening to people talk and discuss about books, it's kind of like having like a book club, I guess. You know, they kind of run down. There's usually a lot of spoilers, so hopefully like you've read the book, but I like to go on there if it's a book I've read and see if they have an episode on it and listen to it, and it's just fun. It's just a fun time. So it's like hanging out with book girlies. And then the last two I have are show-based. So basically me and my husband and I have either Friends or The Office on repeat. I can't remember the last time. We are not big TV people. The most current thing we watch is basketball. When basketball is on, we follow the Raptors. We are big Raptor fans. But in terms of like anything new that's out right now, we don't watch any of it. Pretty much, we really don't. We just recycle Friends and The Office because our two most favorite shows, and you just cannot touch those two shows, and you will not tell me otherwise or change my mind. So I'm just telling you right now. Actually, I'm gonna add in Gilmore Girls, sorry. But Gilmore Girls is more of a me thing. That's my thing. That being said, I love listening to, it is The Office Ladies with Jenna Fisher and Angela Kinsey. And if you don't know, like if you know The Office but you don't know, Jenna Fisher, she played Pam on The Office, and Angela Kinsey played Angela. And funnily enough, this is the part that I loved when this whole thing first started, is that because if you know the show, you know how they are just like completely at odds, completely different characters, completely just like not friends on the show, and are like BFFs in real life, which I just think is so fun. Like even when the show was on, they were like super good friends outside of the show. I just find that hilarious when you know their characters on the show. And so they started this podcast called The Office Ladies, and they basically started at season 1, and they do an episode of the podcast on every single Office episode. I don't even know what they're at right now. And they literally run down the whole episode. They kind of just talk about different parts, what they thought, filming it, being in it, you know, just kind of what they thought of the storyline. And they've had different guests on as well from The Office, which has been fun. It's just, if you are an Office fan, you can't pass up this podcast. It's just so fun to listen to, recall the different episodes and the different moments. And it's like, it's funny to like hear their reactions, even though they were like on the show, to the episodes, because a lot of it's very similar to, like, just as a watcher, as a viewer of the show, it's funny to hear them have like similar takes on the different plots and the different things going on in the show and the different characters and stuff like that. So it's just all around fun and entertaining. The last one, again along the same lines, it's called I'm All In with Scott Patterson, who played Luke on Gilmore Girls. I'm a huge Gilmore Girls fan. Like, I'm an OG. I know that a lot of times these things come back, I want to say in style a little bit, because Gilmore Girls, I feel like over the last couple of years kind of had like a resurgence of popularity, new people watching it, but I'm an OG follower of Gilmore Girls. And when I was having babies and up at night nursing and stuff, Gilmore Girls kept me company. So me and Gilmore Girls go way back. I'm not even exaggerating, my husband could vouch for me, I've probably watched the whole series maybe 40 times, 50 times, like I kid you not, because I basically just stop it and start it. It's always going. I always have an episode going of Gilmore Girls. So needless to say, this podcast with Scott Patterson, who played Luke, one of my faves, and it's a similar concept where he goes through every episode. It's the same sort of a thing, and talks about each episode, talks about the different characters in that episode and what the plot was, what the story was, what he thought about it. You know, he'll give his take on his part in that specific episode, what he thought about, you know, his character and like what they were doing with his character for that story, and if he liked it or didn't like it's so, I love that kind of behind the scenes stuff is my favorite. So if you love Gilmore Girls, I mean, I love Gilmore Girls. It's a super fun one to listen to. He's had a few guests on too as well. Those are like my go-to, just if I just want something on in the background, fun and light. It's not intense. You don't have to be like paying attention. It's kind of just there. Then yeah, great one. So there you have it. There is my favorite podcasts, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I kind of just wanted to throw this in the mix. I know a lot of us, when we're doing a lot of different things in our life, in our day, sometimes just listening to a little something, sometimes it can be something educational, sometimes it could just be something to make you laugh, a little bit of entertainment. And it's nice to just kind of have some variety so I can pick and choose whatever I feel like in the moment. So maybe you guys got some suggestions. Let me know in the comments if you listen to podcasts, and if you do, maybe let us know what some of your faves are. And if you're new, I would love it if you subscribe, like this video, and I hope you guys are doing fantastic. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.